Hey everybody, and welcome back to another video by Skully. So there's a very important topic I wanted to discuss in this video. It is a bit of a hot topic and because it is kind of, there's a lot of stigma around it, but that's why I wanted to talk about it because I think it's very important. So I wanted to talk about relapsing and or going back to old habits. So in your journey throughout your mental illness and recovery and getting better, when you go before you go to therapy, of course there's going to be habits that you had before you went to therapy, and when you go to therapy you're learning how to rebuild your life and be a better person and really kind of learn more about yourself and how to cope with maybe current situations, past situations, kind of living a healthier life going forward. So of course there can be bad habits that you did in the past to cope that were maybe kind of more, it could have been for instant gratification more so because it was faster, something that helped pretty quickly, or something you felt helped, or something you just kind of started maybe doing that you felt like you were coping with it better than you actually were. When you start therapy, it is something that unfortunately is not as quick as people expect it to be in terms of results. You will get results over time, especially if you have the right therapy, right doctor, which can take time to figure out, based on the person. Medications are like that too. They can take time finding the right medications. Meanwhile, in this path, finding out what works, trying different remedies, you're still going to, be you. You're still going to be going through life, and you're still going to have feelings and kind of ups and downs that go with life, because that's how life is. And while you're trying to figure out what's working for you, that's not all going to just be on hold. You're still going to have to go through life and kind of manage it and try hopefully better coping mechanisms, but that can take time. So if you're trying these new kind of coping mechanisms, therapy, medication, if you're not really feeling as better as you want to and life is still hard and you're still struggling, there is sometimes that tendency to go back to old habits, and sometimes people do. It's easy to feel guilty, it's easy to feel horrible, but the truth is you're human. It doesn't make you weak, it doesn't make your problems any less valid, and it doesn't mean that you're not trying. You are. But it's very aggravating when you're putting so much time and even money investing into something like therapy and you're feeling like you're not getting better as quickly as you would like to. And that's why things like that can happen. And now with relapsing, people tend to think substances, alcohol, drugs, that kind of stuff. Well, why I kind of separated those two words a little bit, they're really actually pretty similar. With relapsing, you can relapse on things that aren't drugs or alcohol. You can relapse even on habits. You can relapse on old habits that you felt worked for you in the past. Like, sadly, self-harming is a pretty big one for some people, which therapy is designed to help you to deal with, to have better coping mechanisms so you can hopefully abandon the ones like that one that are more harmful to you. You can, depending on what illnesses you have or what symptoms you have, some people have eating disorders, some people, if you're a shopaholic or if you have an addiction to something like gambling, people can relapse on those things too when they're stressed out, when they have a lot going on. And sometimes it's just very hard to deal with just kind of stress and just life over a long period of time because, like I said, life is going to keep going even when you're in therapy and even when you're learning new habits. So really, this is why sticking with things like therapy is so important, because the people there, if you have like a doctor or therapist, it's going to be very hard if you ever have to walk in there and tell them that you relapse on a bad habit that you had, like the ones I mentioned. Those people are not there to judge you. They are there to help you. They know life is hard, and they know that you're dealing with things, not even just your mental illness, but they know that life is hard as well. So communicating with them, if you've had the tendency to go back to old habits, or if it is something that's struggling because maybe you don't feel a therapy is working for you, or medication, or if you're simply just having a rough time in general and maybe you need something additional, it's very important to communicate that with them and with your psychiatrist as well, especially if you're on medications. They can come up with a plan to help you. If you're somebody who's very prone to relapsing or going back to old habits, they can have a plan in place for you if things really, really get dangerous or severe, or just simply, like, really a lot of things in healthcare involve you as the patient and some sort of kind of plan with your doctor because they want to help you and that's what they're there for. And it's very difficult to go through these kind of things because there's just always going to be people that don't understand. They're going to sit there and give you a hard time, especially if it's happened before. And talking to these people about it can be very difficult. And if they're a good friend of yours, hopefully they'll sit down and listen to what you have to say and kind of hear you out. But at the end of the day, sometimes these things are very complicated. Don't give yourself a hard time if you found yourself relapsing before. It is normal to have a moment of weakness. I don't want to call it moment of weakness in the literal sense, but as a figure of speech in terms of, like, you had a bad day, you had a habit of going to the bar to kind of try to cope with it. So that's what you did today. You know, not the best thing in the world, but you had a bad day. And sometimes things can go pretty far sometimes, and again, your family can be mad at you and stuff like that. But tomorrow is a new day. And if it was like that situation, you were 2 years sober, that is very heartbreaking. You feel like you can ruin all your progress in one night. But the thing is, it's not so much really ruining your progress. You can feel like you're starting over, like day one of, like, being sober again, for example. But it's giving yourself another chance to just try again and again, communicating with your doctor and maybe even with your family. Sometimes people can be quick to kind of jump on you about things like that, but if you really honestly were going through a hard time, or maybe you just did it more automatically, like maybe you didn't even really think about it, it kind of just happened. I mean, sometimes people can be more understanding than you think. But this is such a big topic when it comes to mental illness because, like I said, it's very common. As much as we would like to just, okay, I have a mental illness, like I have depression. Love to just skip merrily to my therapy appointment and live happily ever after, but let's be realistic. Life's not like that, unfortunately. Life is great, life is wonderful, but life is not always as instant as we want it to be when it comes to things like therapy because they are complicated and people are complicated. And it's part of what makes life wonderful because if we were all just simple all the time, then life would be pretty boring and we wouldn't be as fascinating. You know, like you go talk to another person and they're so fascinating because they have a different personality than you and they've lived life differently, they look at things differently, and it's so exciting to learn about people and life and everything, and we wouldn't have all of that if things were so simple. And therapy also is complex. Therapy is also scary, and some people are going into therapy never having gone to therapy before, maybe not even really liking doctors or really kind of medical professionals. And it can be very hard to listen to these people that you feel don't know you very well, but these people are trying to. They're trying to learn more about you, and they're trying to help you, and they want to see you do better, just like you want to see yourself do better. So if relapse is something that you're struggling with, really, really work with them to come up with a better plan in case things happen again. Come up with better techniques that can help you to kind of keep you on track. Different ways of thinking, distraction, journaling, writing, hobbies. Hobbies are an excellent way to channel kind of energy and negative thinking into something very productive. And being productive makes you feel really good also about yourself. And having self-confidence, looking yourself in the face, in the mirror, giving yourself some compliments, some love for doing well. And yeah, you got your chip for, maybe it's 30 months sober. Well, that's not easy for really a lot of people. And okay, 30 days, that's a really good start, and give yourself a pat on the back for that. Because at one point you weren't 30 days sober. Maybe you weren't even trying because you just didn't know what was going on yet and you were still just kind of finding your way. So even the little things, always celebrate the little things because the little things lead to the big things, and the little things need to be appreciated too. Because life is hard, but we can get through it one day at a time. Until next time, have a great day, guys.